So in this video, I want to teach you how to create more vertical force and importantly try to effect that timing as well of when you create that huge amount of force in your downswing, which is it's critical in enabling your body to orientate your body into a position in an optimal fashion for impact. So I'm going to use a very popular training aid, and it's one of my favorite training aids actually. It's the Downshift Board, and I'm going to use this board to help you understand. This board kind of helps you identify kind of lateral side to side weight shift, so to speak, and the shifting of your pressure, but more importantly vertical force. It's allowing you to, it will help you train vertical force and the intensity or how much force that you can create. So I'm going to capture some swings. I'm going to do some training on the Downshift board. I'm then going to use the force plates, the dual 3D force plates below me, to actually measure and quantify the amount of force that I've created or I'm creating after the training. Okay, so the Downshift board, when I use it, I'm trying to increase the amount of force to make the board tip faster towards my lead side. So the intensity of that force, I'm going to kind of rate. I'm going to give it on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm going to kind of rate it. So, you know, 1 or 2 out of 10 would be a low intensity. A 5 or 6 would be a medium intensity. And then a 9 or 10 would be a high intensity of force that I'm powering down into the front of my lead foot. Okay, and then we're going to use the force plates here on and get some data. And then I'm going to do like a screencast of the data from the force plates, and I can show you how much force that I'm creating and any increase that I've got from that intensity drill with the Downshift board. So I'm just going to reset my force plates ready to go. So let me give me just a moment. Okay, so the first one's the low intensity. And you're going to see from my motion on the board, I'm going to kind of just create like a very light kind of tap down underneath my lead foot. Importantly, the timings of this, okay, I'm going to be in downswing when I increase the amount of force underneath my left foot, and that would shift what we call center of pressure, my COP, over to the left side if I was using a pressure mapping system. So this is kind of a light tap down of my left foot. I'm going to see how much force that creates. So let's capture one here. Okay, it's a pretty good strike. That's captured. So I'm just going to call out the numbers here, and then I'm going to do the screencast and add that to the end. So that increased my force, vertical force, peak amount was 141%, so 1.4 times my body weight. I unfortunately weigh about 97 kilos. I'm carrying a little bit of extra timber these days since holiday, but that would be 1.4 times 97 kilos. Okay, so now we're going to go for the medium intensity training on the Downshift board. So I'm going to reset my plates again. So this time on the Downshift board, I'm going to create a bit more force, kind of on that scale of 1 to 10, a kind of a 5 or a 6. And then let's measure one, see what we get. Strike was okay, pretty good. So the speeds have gone up. So my first swing was 91 club, second one 80, sorry, first one was 81 club, second one 85 club. So I've gone up 5 miles an hour. Vertical force has increased. So from what was that, 140, 141 up to 156, so 1.5 times my body weight now with the medium intensity drill. Struck it pretty good out the center of the face as well. Okay, good. So that's increased. I've got more vertical force. We'll look at timings a little bit later when I do show the screencast of the data. So increase in club head speed, increase in vertical force. Okay, so let's do the third part of this particular drill then. So the high intensity press down on the Downshift board. So I'm going to create a ton of vertical here. Okay, so got a good feel for that. Let's measure one. Okay, slam the board down. Hit much harder. It's actually quite difficult to not hit it hard when you're creating a ton of vertical force. So what was the speed? 92. So we've gone from 81 up to 92. That's how much vertical force? 210. Okay, that was a big slam down. Strike was pretty good as well. Direction a tad left. But look, so using this training aid that you can get for around £100 or so, plus, you know, carriage, you can get it in the States. I think there's something like 70 or 80 bucks plus your postage. But, you know, you can get these online. I sell them in the UK and Europe. But look, we've increased vertical force with that intensity drill there, with the low, medium and high intensity stamp or press down under the lead foot. We've got the forces up, we've got the speeds up. So you can use this board and this training aid to help you create more vertical force and therefore help you create more clubhead speed. Let's have a look at the force data then. So just to bring you up to speed with what the information, lots of information on the screen, but try and simplify it for you. So my center of mass is the blue sphere in the middle. This is the force underneath my trail foot, the reaction, and this is the force underneath my lead foot, the reaction. We're going to see the trace of the center of mass laterally and vertically. So this is the big ones, what we're looking at: vertical force, the peak amount, the high, the yellow number here. So on that first swing, 141, 1.4 times, of which 99% of that was from my left foot. So let's look at the timings of that as well. I'm going to put the face on video. Look at that kind of peak value, 141, bit late. That's me all over. That's my second name, Late, Steve Late Furlonger, with my late vertical forces. So it's always a problem for me. I can get away with it with irons, but I don't really get away with it with driver. So 141 and quite late. I'm down just below shaft horizontal in the downswing when I reach my vertical force peak. It's a bit of a double spike, there's a double press, but you can see the lateral forces move in my center of mass. So I've got some side to side center of mass, over to trail, up, down, and then back up again. So let's look at swing two. So the 156, we've lost the double peak. Let's have a look here. So this isn't peaking twice here. So 156 and over 113 underneath my left foot. Let's look at the timings. Yeah, great. A little bit later. So the more force I create, the earlier I time it. So I was down here somewhere on the first one. So I've increased the force and improved the timings to be a bit earlier. So that's really good. My body's going to rise up coming into impact. So 156 over 113. We can certainly see a little bit more down, a bit of a downward motion of the center of mass as well before it pops back up again. And that was my 85 mile an hour swing. Last but not least, let's bring up the final swing and have a look at this one. Okay, so we've got the 210. You can see that big mountain peak here, 210, and more up and down of the center of mass. The trace is more vertical here, up and down, which is great. So let's have a look at them, play this one through. So this was our 92 mile an hour swing. There's a good amount of up, then comes the down. We reach that peak time there at 210 around this point, so similar time as the second, so it's earlier, which is always good for me. And then my body, you can see my pelvis rising upwards, my left side getting higher as my trail side goes down from impact. So I get my side tilts and move up into the finish position. So 210 over 142. 142 of that 210 is out of the left foot. So a huge improvement in gains, huge gains in vertical force using this intensity drill with this excellent training aid, the Downshift Board. How you can then quantify and measure the intensity of how hard You push down underneath your lead foot in the downswing. Importantly, time it. If you can time it between shaft vertical and shaft horizontal. Really, for driver it wants to be vertical. For iron it can be horizontal or between the two. But get that vertical force to spike and peak, so that force precedes motion. We need the force to then move up through the legs and into the pelvis, so we can orientate the pelvis correctly in an optimal fashion to hit good shots and create some decent speed. Because speed is great, and we know that from a strokes gain perspective, if we can hit it harder, hit it further down there, we're going to shoot, we're going to score, we're going to achieve lower scores because it takes fewer shots to get into the hole. So speed is very important. The forces are important, as long as we can time them using the downshift board to create, increase those peaks.